So let's go back to the core reason why I asked you to take out your business card. You're working in a business where you've got good products, your competitors have got good products, but ultimately it may well come down to the relationship you've got with your customers. So what I would like you to do is to write down on the back of this business card, and then I'm going to ask you to take the business card and put it in with your driving license or with your credit cards. I would like you to write down the 3 words, I'm not going to ask you what they are. I would like you to write down the 3 words you would like your customers to say about you after you have left the meeting with them. Write down the 3 words you want your customers to say about you after you have left the meeting with them. I'll give you a minute to do it. But basically what you have written down there on that business card is your brand promise. Now, a brand promise does not mean that that is what the customer sees as your brand. But if you can actually live those 3 words, you have a much better chance than of the customer actually seeing that this is your brand, and they will say those things about you. I'm asking you to put the business card back in with your driving license or with your credit cards, is that when you go to the gas station tomorrow or go to the airport, you got to take out your driving license for ID, you will see those 3 words. You will say, hey, would Bill, Nancy, Jerry, Francis use any of those 3 words to describe me after they met me at the HMMC conference? Or when you go to your clients next week, will they say those 3 words about me? Now, the power of this, if you really believe that those 3 words are important, right? The next time you are making a major sales pitch, take out that business card and ask yourself, all right, what do I want them to say about me after I finish the meeting? I want them to say that we're proactive, very good on follow-up, innovative, easy to work with, whatever words you want to use, right? Now, if you have that clear vision as to what you want them to say after you've left the meeting, and if you believe that if they say that, you've been successful, I think what you can now do is you can actually figure out, how do I craft my presentation to get them to say those words? Now, I'm not suggesting you be manipulative, but I mean, you know, you can phrase your conversation and your sales presentations, obviously, to get the business. So, I mean, it's not just going into, my objective is not just to go into get a $4 million piece of business. My objective is right now, because decisions are not yet being taken, my objective right now is to get them to know that we're reliable, innovative, easy to work with, etc. If you go in with that clear goal, you'll have framed your thinking about it, and when you frame your thinking about that, you have a real chance of making it happen. And if you make it happen, you are on. You have a clear goal and a clear vision as to what success will look like. Another example of an organization that was energized by clear goal and clear vision is McDonald's. The thing about the clear goal and vision is, saying you want hot, fresh food and clean restrooms is not very dramatic, but it is compelling and it is clear. And I think when you're developing your vision, it doesn't have to be dramatic, it doesn't have to be different from your competition, but if you actually make it compelling and you make it clear, you have a much better chance of making it happen. So clear that can make a difference to you, though, is whether or not you implement what I call restroom marketing. And you're kind of saying, what is he talking about now? Restroom marketing. Restroom marketing comes from that little anecdote I told you about McDonald's. And Cantaloupe said that people were boycotting McDonald's because they weren't providing fresh hot food and clean restrooms. And basically what he realized is that there are certain things that if you don't get right, people will boycott your business. And one of the basic ways that people lose business is because you don't get basic things right or simple things right, and your customers get tired of you and they'll move to someone else. It isn't because you don't have a good product, it's because something went wrong. And one of the simple little questions you could ask yourself in terms of restroom marketing is to ask yourself, I would define restroom marketing as non-negotiables, all right? So for McDonald's, it had to be clean restrooms, right? It had to be hot, fresh food. And once they started moving away from that, they started to lose business again. For you, the non-negotiables are things that if you don't get right, your customers will walk. And a very good exercise for you to do with your colleagues would be to ask yourself, what are our non-negotiables? What are the things that if we don't get right, we lose customers? And these are non-negotiables that don't necessarily just apply to the C-suite, to the executive office, but they're applied to every part of the business. How many people here are fans of Eli's cheesecake? A few people here, right? Famous Chicago cheesecake operation. I was listening to the CEO of Eli's Cheesecake a couple of days ago at a conference, and he said the most important person in the restaurant is the busboy. And what you've got to understand is who are the people, the equivalent of the people serving your table for your customers. And you've got to make sure that they understand what the non-negotiables are. And if they understand what the non-negotiables are, if they implement them, you're going to satisfy your customers, they're going to say good things about you, you're going to grow your business. A simple concept, but not something that people necessarily pay a lot of attention to. So that's the first element I want to speak to you about. G is for goals. Clear goals and vision. Second element I want to speak about is A, and A is for attitude. If Viktor Frankl, in the hellhole of a concentration camp, could choose his attitude, each of us here can choose our attitude. Each of us here has gone through our own personal hell and difficulties from time to time. But if Viktor Frankl, in the hellhole of a concentration camp, could choose his attitude, each of us here can do it. How do we do it? We do it by remembering one powerful question when things go wrong. And the question to ask yourself when things go wrong, the question that will help you to choose your attitude, it's a basic question. The question is, what do I want my attitude to be? What do I want my attitude to be? I'll give you another example of where it helped me. A few years back, I was driving in the western suburbs here in Chicago in rush hour traffic. Came to a set of traffic lights, turned left at the traffic lights, and a few seconds after turning left, I noticed in my rear view mirror a mobile discotheque. Cop car, flashing lights. So I pulled to the slower lane, he pulled to the slower lane. And I remember saying to myself, well, holy St. Patrick and St. Bridget. Bit of respect there, please. Holy St. Patrick and St. Bridget, what could that fine officer of the law want from an upstanding citizen like me? Now, that was the gist of what I was thinking. I may have said just one four-letter word. But for those of you whose mind is in the gutter, the word was oops. Which, as you all know, stands for uh-oh, police, stop. Right. So I pulled into a little small parking lot at the side of the road, and as I was pulling in, I said to myself, now why does he want to speak to me? And the only reason I could figure why he might want to speak to me was when I had turned left at the traffic lights, they were slightly red. But not by a whole lot now, mind you. So, he is there on his computer checking me to see if in my case I'm a member of the Irish Republican Army, or even worse, a Cubs fan. Go White Sox! I have to tell you, depending on who I'm speaking to, I obviously try and put in a kind of an answer to that gets a reaction. But when I was speaking up near the Green Bay area a couple of years ago, I made the comment that the cop was checking to see if I was a member of the Irish Republican Army, or worse, a Packers fan. I didn't think I would get out of that room alive. So he was there checking my computer to see what my record was like. And I asked myself the question that I said you should ask when things go wrong. So I asked myself the question, what do I want my attitude to be? And I said there's no point in being antsy and annoyed about this. He probably doesn't understand the concept of slightly red lights. So in my side mirror, I see him walking up towards me, and this being Chicagoland area, I prayed that he had an Irish name. I prayed that he had this vision of Ireland, that the roads are still unpaved, that milk is brought to the creamery via donkey and cart, and that traffic lights, if they exist at all, are, well, basically advisory. I look up, Officer Schmidt, who proceeded to tell me in minute detail what I had done wrong. He asked for my license, and he asked for my insurance. Now, none of this is made up, I promise you. I had asked myself the question, what do I want my attitude to be? As he is looking at my license, he says to me, "Sir, I like your attitude." I'm thinking, woohoo, I'm getting away with this. Then he looks at my insurance and he says, "Sir, your insurance certificate is out of date." My wife normally looks after that, officer. He smiled. I think he realized he was dealing with one more administratively incompetent husband. Ladies, you know the story, I'm sure. And he just handed back the insurance certificate to me, and he said, "Look, take it easy on that one." Now, I should tell you that this event happened on the 16th of March. Okay? One day before St. Patrick's Day. So the rest of the conversation went as follows. We're having great, good fun, and as you will see, it continued that way. So the rest of the conversation went, "How much will this cost me, officer?" He said, "I'll cite you for the red light. I'll leave you go on the insurance. That'll cost you $75, sir." $75? Do you know how many pints of Guinness I can get tomorrow for $75? The guy cracked up laughing. I think he thought I was on crystal meth. And he said to me, "Sir, if I was to cite you for the red light and the lack of insurance, this would be significantly more expensive. You'd have to go to a traffic court." So I said, "Thank you, I appreciate the break you're giving me." I pulled into a very small parking lot with only one access and egress, so I had to turn the car around and drive by Officer Schmidt. As I drove by Officer Schmidt, I kid you not, he waved to me with a genuine smile. That was how the conversation had gone. And I said, "This is crazy. This guy's waving to me with a genuine smile, and he's after fining me $75. And I waved back to him with a genuine smile, saying, "This is really crazy. He's fined me $75 and I'm waving back to him." What Officer Schmidt, though, would not have known was that for only $75, I got a really powerful anecdote about the importance of asking yourself a really powerful question when things go wrong. And for everyone here in this room, things do go wrong. In the next couple of days, something will go wrong. Hopefully, though, it's not going to be anything serious. Maybe you might spill a cup of coffee here on the table, or you might stub your toe or something like that. But things will go wrong. It's life. We all hit speed bumps. We all hit potholes. When we hit those speed bumps, when we hit those potholes, if you can remember to ask yourself the question, what do I want my attitude to be? It will make a real difference to you. And it won't make just a real difference to you here at the hotel in Chicago. It'll make a real difference to you when you're dealing with your customers, with your clients, and with your work colleagues when you go back to work. So, knowing the people here in this room, I know that everyone here in this room does not have any difficult colleagues to work with, right? I know that everyone here in this room doesn't have any difficult clients or customers to work with. But let's assume you did have a difficult colleague to work with. Let's assume that you know that when you're going into a meeting next week with this difficult colleague, you're kind of saying to yourself, "I just cannot work with that person," or "that person drives me crazy," or "they're just so unappreciative of the work and the results that we are generating." One way that will help you to change the environment in that meeting room or at that meeting is that before you go to the meeting, ask yourself the question, what do I want my attitude to be when I'm inside there? And I think when you ask yourself the question, what do I want my attitude to be, when you're going in dealing with your difficult work colleague, or you're going in dealing with a customer that you really have difficulties with, when you ask yourself the question, what do I want my attitude to be, you're not going to say, I want to be cranky, I want to be upset, I want to annoy them. I think if you ask yourself the question, what do I want my attitude to be, you're probably going to say, I need to get something out of this meeting. I need this meeting to be productive. And when you ask that question, what do I want my attitude to be, I think it will shape the format and your thinking for that meeting. And if you go into that meeting with that kind of a different attitude, you may well come out with a totally different result, a more positive result. It is a powerful question that can make a real difference to you. Your behavior creates your brand, believe it or not. How you behave determines what people say about you. What people say about you is what your brand actually is. But let's go back to Officer Schmidt for a second, and I want to give you an example of behavior here. After that incident with Officer Schmidt where he gave me the $75 ticket, I went home to my darling wife of so many years looking for sympathy. Did I get it? No. See, you women are all the same. So I'm sitting there at the kitchen table looking for sympathy and saying to my wife, well, do you know how many pints of Guinness I could get tomorrow for $75? Nothing. This is after 22 years of happy marriage. Now we've been married 29. But after a couple of minutes, my wife comes over and she puts a piece of paper down on the kitchen table and she said, I gave you that insurance certificate about 4 weeks ago. I knew you wouldn't put it in the car. I looked up at her and I said, so it's your fault. When I regained consciousness, the frying pan, as we call it back in Ireland, was in one hand, divorce papers in the other. But she didn't actually go through with the divorce proceedings though. But to this day though, and you men in the audience I know will be able to help me on this, I cannot convince my wife that it was her behaviour that was at fault. So if the men in the audience ever meet my darling wife, just kind of try and win my side of the argument for me. But that's obviously a goofball example about behaviour though. But your behaviour, as part of the gift of GAB, goals, attitudes, behaviour, creates your brand. I arrived in after lunch, and there on my desk was a potted plant. Not a pot plant, irrespective of what you say about medicinal marijuana. It was a potted plant. And its bright flowers are brightening the room, but the message attached to it really brightened my heart. And the message read, Conor, life is not always fair. Hang in there. Signed, Carmel. Now, Carmel was a work colleague who actually often butted heads with, to be honest with you. But her simple act of kindness on that day helped me and encouraged me to stay in the organisation, where I eventually became ultimately very successful. And that's why you're stuck with me here now this afternoon, because I was transferred to the United States. But her simple act of kindness, though, helped me appreciate the impact that simple acts of kindness can have on someone when they are going through tough times. It was 19 years ago I received that potted plant. But even today, when times are tough, when I don't get the business that I want or a contract falls through, I tell you, I can still see that potted plant. Its bright red flowers shining like a beacon for me, helping me and encouraging me to go through and be able to beat the tough times. And you know what? Everyone here in this group today can provide a potted plant, real or symbolic, to someone you know who's going through tough times right now. And even given the economy that we're in, some of you might be saying, hey, I'm the person who's going through tough times. I'm not getting the kind of salary that I want. My spouse can't find a job. My husband is out, my kid is out of work. I'm overstressed, I'm overworked. But if that's the case, you more than anyone would appreciate if someone were to pick up the phone, send an email, write words of encouragement, or give a hug of support. And everyone here in this room could do it. And if everyone here in this room wants to have a goal that you would reach out and help someone who is struggling, and you do know someone who is struggling, it can make a real difference to you. It can make a real difference to Edward Hospital as well. Imagine if on Monday you reached out and helped someone at work. Imagine if that someone on Tuesday reached out and helped someone else. Imagine if on Wednesday the next person reached out and helped someone else. Imagine if on Thursday. Imagine what would happen if someone made the first effort to reach out and help. I know you're working with a great organisation, but everyone struggles at times. And you can make a difference to that one person. And when you make that one person happier, you can make a difference to the whole organisation as well. A simple little act of kindness can make a difference. One simple little example on that, I'll go back to the potted plant example that I was talking about. When I finally say goodbye to this world, and when I finally talk my way past St. Peter at the pearly gates, that's going to be an interesting conversation, I tell you. I expect to see, sitting in one of the premier rows in heaven, Carmel, the lady who gave me that potted plant. And there is a rule in heaven, it was introduced by the HR department, that you return, sorry Carrie, okay, that you return potted plants to the giver. I'll go over to Carmel and I'll say to her, with my potted plant, I'll say, Carmel, I never liked potted plants. But the day you gave me that potted plant, you brought the colours of the rainbow, you brought the magic of the leprechaun, and you brought the spirit of that Irish legend into my heart. And you helped me when I was struggling. Thank you. And you know what might well happen? Given the way we are as human beings are, quite likely Carmel might say, Conor, I don't even remember that incident. But I do, and it made a difference to me. And you probably remember the time that someone reached out to help you. I can remember something from 19 years back. It can make a difference to everyone. And so when I finally take my seat in heaven and I look across the aisle, and given the spirit of goodwill and generosity that is in this room, I expect to see, sitting across the aisle, you, and you, and you, and you, and you, surrounded by potted plants. A potted plant representing an act of kindness where you helped someone who was struggling. A potted plant that cost you nothing. To the receiver was priceless. A potted plant you may have forgotten. The receiver never forgotten. A potted plant, all the hues and the colours of the rainbow, red and orange and green and yellow and blue. A potted plant that had both of you, receiver and giver, dancing on mushrooms. The gift of GAB, goals, attitudes, behaviour. If you've got a goal to reach out and help someone, you can make it a top of the morning experience for you and for other people. A couple of weeks ago, I was doing a presentation. It was actually to the Rod Blagojevich Centre for Ethical Government. A little lady came up to me. She was actually Mother Octavia of the Seven Sorrows from Six Flags. She had 5 sisters, 4 brothers, 3 were nuns, 2 were priests, and 1 was the black sheep of the family, a politician. But she was a lovely lady. She was kind of like Mother Teresa in size and demeanour and personality. And she said to me, Mr. I loved your piece about goals, attitudes and behaviour, but she said when you were living back in Ireland many years ago and you were barely surviving on a meagre daily diet of thin cabbage soup and overboiled potatoes with the skin left on for added fibre. And she said to me, when you were living in one of those, sleeping in one of those tiny beds, in a tiny room, in a tiny cottage, in a tiny village, overlooking as you saw the sun go down over Galway Bay. And I said to her, you mean, dear little old lady, when I was living in one of those pretty whitewashed thatched cottages that dot the picturesque Irish landscape? And she said to me, shut up and don't interrupt me. And then she went on to say, Mother Octavia went on to say, Mr. Coneen, when you were living in one of those pretty whitewashed thatched cottages that dot the picturesque Irish landscape, did you at that stage have a clear goal and a clear vision that you would become a cherished and a beloved inspirational speaker who brings hope and meaning to the lives of ordinary people and even extraordinary people at the Edward Hospital recognition luncheon? Word for word. I told her, you know, dear little old lady, it wasn't as easy as that, because I remember many years ago running home. There was bitter, salty tears running down my angelic face. The kids in the neighbourhood had been calling me names again, and I ran home into the arms of my mother. I tell you, it was a painful experience, because she had 4 arms the size of Brian Urlacher's. And I said to her, Mama, Mama, I'll never become a cherished and beloved inspirational speaker who brings hope and meaning to the lives of ordinary people and even extraordinary people at the Edward Hospital recognition luncheon. Do you know how hard it is to say that to your mother when there's tears running down your freckled face? And she said, why not, son? I said, Mama, Mama, how can I become a great motivational speaker? I mean, think of the disadvantages. The deadbeat dad, the poor school grades, the poverty, and the stutter. I said, how can I be seen to be a motivational speaker when we have none of those challenges as a family? My mother put down her glass of Dom Perignon champagne. And she said to me, son, you will become a cherished and beloved inspirational speaker who brings hope and meaning to the lives of ordinary people. And as for the people at Edward Hospital, son, nothing can help them. But she said to me though, son, you do have some growing up to do. I mean, you are 28 years of age. And she said to me though, son, but I do have some advice for you. And I said, the advice I can give you, son, is to remember the gift of GAB. And my mama said to me, Conor, if you remember the gift of GAB, goals, attitudes, behaviour, it can create a top of the morning experience for you and for the people that you work with. So she said, when it comes to goals, set yourself a simple goal that you can make a difference to someone on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, because it will actually pay it forward and it'll go on. When things go wrong, she said to me, and they will, the question to ask yourself is, what do I want my attitude to be? And if you have the simple goal of helping people, if you have a question to remember, what do I want my attitude to be, she said to me, when things go wrong, that is going to help you with your behaviour. And the simple little GPS, the GPS back in those days, the simple little GPS that you can use to help you stay on track with your behaviour is to write down 3 words on your business card, on a paper that you will see today, tomorrow, and on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. 3 words to describe how you would like someone to describe you. Goals, attitudes, behaviour. And I said to my mom, I said, goals, attitudes, behaviour. I said, I like it. Will that help me to become a cherished and beloved inspirational speaker? And she said, it might, son, but if you bring goals, attitudes, behaviour, it'll definitely help you to be a better person.